announcement there. So thank you for taking time to learn about our products, to find out more about some of the new features in SmartList Builder to start with, and to also learn more about SmartView itself. So we're excited to have you join us today, and we will just go ahead and jump right in. Now, my name is Abby Cooper. I've been with eOne for quite a while, for about 7 years, and have enjoyed getting to know eOne products and be a part of a lot of neat solutions that I've had the privilege of observing and working with customers on. So I focus primarily on the sales side, and also with me is Nicole Albertson, and she works on the tech side. So she is our SmartList Builder guru and extender guru and everything else as well. So she's going to be the one today talking about the new features in SmartList Builder. And I believe I heard John mention or take kind of a poll of the room, and a bunch of you have SmartList Builder already, it sounds like. So this is a great opportunity for you to learn the new features that we added to SmartList Builder actually as of this January. So as soon as it came back to eOne from Microsoft, we right out of the gate added about 8 new features. And so Nicole is going to go through those in just a moment. So you have an agenda for our time together. We're keeping it really simple. Nicole will do the new features. I'll go into SmartView, one of our products that is a great option for you if you are big into smart lists. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for a question and answer session as well. Okay, so now Nicole will explain the differences between some of the products, and I know John mentioned it a little bit, but there are a number of products and they all seem to start with smart for some reason. So we'll talk about what the difference is between the two. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make Nicole the presenter here real quick, so give us a minute just to change over, and then she'll go into, let's see, she'll go into the, her session, and then I'll jump in at the end for SmartView. So go ahead and take it away, Nicole.
So hopefully now you see my PowerPoint.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, so before I just jump into what the new features are in the builders, I know there's a couple that maybe don't have SmartList Builder, so let me just explain a little bit about what that is. SmartList Builder fills the void where you're using SmartList and you say, I wish it had this column, or I wish there was even a SmartList that would allow me to see this type of data. You know, SmartList has a lot of different lists in it, but they don't have all the data you enter in GP. Some of them are just missing a few columns you'd like to see, but some of them, there just isn't even a list in SmartList to use. And that's where SmartList Builder really comes in. It allows us to create new SmartLists that basically will pull the data you need to see. We can do things like calculations, adding restrictions, making a multi-company even if we need to build the data you need to get into SmartList, and then in the end SmartView that Abby will show you. So that's where SmartList Builder comes in. It also includes Excel Report Builder, which allows you to build new Excel refreshable reports, and Navigation List Builder, which allows you to do new navigation lists. So along with SmartList, we can create new Excel reports and navigation lists to have the data that you need to see. And then there's also a drill down builder in there that allows you to integrate your Excel reports back to GP and kind of do that drill back into the data that you have there. So that's what SmartList Builder is in a real quick terms. But let me get into the new features and show you some of the new things that we released this past January for SmartList Builder. And so hopefully, if you don't have these features, seeing them will want you to go get them, and we can get you using them with us. So there we go. So what are the new features? I'm going to go through them real quickly here, and then I'll actually show you them, each feature and how they work. So the first is really a new thing that wasn't there in any other version with any other product, and that's the ability to modify existing smart lists. We can take an existing smart list, say the sales transactions, and you need 2 more columns in that. We can modify that sales transaction, add the table that has those 2 columns to it, and now you have 2 columns added to your default sales transaction SmartList. So that's something we can do with the new 2013 version. We can also auto-update SmartList, which if you are a SmartList Builder user, you know that you have to save the SmartList Builder, launch SmartList, say yes to accept your changes, and then they're there. The new feature, if you have SmartList open, automatically will update. You don't have to go through the process of saying yes to that message every time. We can create new SmartList Builder setups from the default SmartList. So if you don't want to use the modify existing SmartList feature, you can actually create a new one that will mimic the default one. So that you basically have 2 that would look the same until you add the different things you want onto it. With being able to modify the existing and create new ones based on the existing, we took all of the GoTos that the existing ones have and built them in as built-in GoTos, which are the drill downs. If you double click on a record, drills back to GP. That's what the GoTos are. We took all those default SmartLists, all the GoTos they had, and made them built in so that you can use those. We've added a feature for SQL scripting. So if you're a big SQL scripter and are always creating views to use, rather than having to create a view for SmartList Builder to use, you can actually write that script right within SmartList Builder, and then we don't have to worry about security and all of that. We added a preview data function. So if you're trying to build a setup and you want to see the data that might be pulled from that, you can actually preview it from within the builders, and you don't have to save it, go to your SmartList to view it, and then go back to SmartList Builder. You can preview it right in SmartList Builder. We've changed the icons for some of the table types, and then we added a feature that is probably the most important one on the list in my eyes, is the table finder. The biggest issue with SmartList Builder or any of the builders up until this point was, how do I know what tables the data is in? If I'm a front-end user, I don't necessarily know the back-end tables. Well, we took and made Table Finder to help you do that. You know the windows where the data is, or where you're entering it, where you're viewing it in inquiry. You show us that window, we'll tell you the table behind it. And we go down to the field level. You tell me what field you want, and I'll tell you what table or tables it comes from. So that's the new features. Let's jump in and take a look at some of them. I'm going to switch over to GPE here. And what I'm going to do is launch SmartList, because our first feature was the ability to modify an existing SmartList. We'll just not apply that change. Okay, so we have SmartList, and I'm just going to play with the account transactions today. So what I'd like to do is, when I look at this and I go to add, I like to see the notes that I enter into GP. Well, so there's a note index. I'm going to add that. And when I look at it, it's just blank. And where there is a number, it shows me a number. I really don't want to see the index. I want to see the note. And that's not something I can do with SmartList by default. So what I'd like to do is modify this and get the note there instead of that index. So I'm going to click Modify in SmartList, which is going to open SmartList Builder for me, and bring in that existing account transaction SmartList. And now I can make one quick change and find that note index. And I'm going to rename it to Note, put it on there by default, and check a box to show the note. When I save this, you're going to see the second feature come into play, and it's going to automatically update this SmartList that I have in the background. And now it's added that note column, and I'm actually seeing the physical note that I've typed into GP. So that note is just the note that I entered into the GP notes using this little note button on the journal entries where I use that. So that's what that's pulling in. So with a quick change, I had the data I needed in that default SmartList. So now I modified the default SmartList, and if you look, all of the default favorites are still there, as well as my favorite that I had added to it. So I am seeing all of that information. But what happens if I didn't want to actually modify the account transaction one? I want to create a second one with that same type of data, and go to New, and it's going to open SmartList Builder to create a new one. And then we'll just call it ACCT And I'll put new on here so we know which one it is. And then I'll put it in a financial series. Now we have a new table type in here called SmartList, where I get to pick from all of the different SmartLists that are there, and this is going to pull in your manufacturing, your HR, field service, all of those different SmartLists that are there by default. So I'm going to pick account transactions and save it. And now I have the same fields, and it's marking the default for the same fields that are on the default one. It's not putting in my note because that's a modification I made. It's not truly the default setting. So if I save this, I get a new SmartList that right now mimics the default, and I could go then and add anything I need to that one as well. Okay, let's keep using this one, and I want to show you the built-in GoTos. So I'm going to go to GoTo, go to Add, and choose Built-in. And now what we'll see is I get to pick from all the different SmartLists that are available in SmartList. So I'm going to pick account transactions. I want to pull some of the same GoTos that were on that account transaction one into my account transaction new. And then I see the list of 6 GoTos that were there. So I can select something like summary inquiry, and it automatically maps the parameters as long as it knows from my data which fields they are. There are some cases you may have to actually map this parameter because you've changed field names or we just aren't sure where it comes from. But these are the parameters it's expecting. So I'll just name that, hit save. I can set it as the default if I'd like. Save that, and now I set it as the default, so I should be able to double click on it, and it opens that summary inquiry. So that's a lot easier than our old feature of just doing the open form where I had to know what the window requires and go through that whole process. And that's still there. It's just for all these ones that were pre-set up in SmartList, we aren't making you go through that process. We're just pulling in the parameters we know they already require. So that is the built-in GoTo feature. And with that feature, if you are a user that started on 2010, even earlier versions, something like that, there was advanced GoTos. Those have been rolled up into the built-in GoTos as well. So you won't see advanced GoTos in your install anymore unless we put it there. We do have an install for it if you really need it there, but the built-in GoTos really replace those advanced GoTos as well. The next feature is the functionality to add SQL scripts. So if I go back to SmartList Builder, when I click the New button, you're going to see an option for SQL Script here, which is new to SmartList Builder. So that you don't have to watch me type one in. I already have one in there. I can edit it. It's just a basic script. You can enter anything you'd like to in this window as detailed or as basic as you want. It just has to be a select statement. We don't accept insert, update, delete, execute, anything like that. So you don't have to worry about somebody writing a statement that's going to change data. It only allows for select statements with that. And then the only thing you have to do after you've written your select statement is tell us what your key field or fields are so that we know how to create your GoTos for you. So once you write a statement here, it pulls all of that information in, and you have the fields available that that select statement is pulling. So the benefit to this, if you're a SQL View user, is that I don't have to manage permissions to the view. I don't have to make sure it's in all the companies that this SmartList is going to be run in. I don't have to make sure that if they create a new company, I put it in that company. All that management that happens on the back end. The SQL script is written right into SmartList Builder. It's in the SQL tables. We're going to update it as we go through the process. There really is no back-end management to this one. As well as we've also found performance with the SQL script is a little bit better than SQL views. So, the next feature is the preview data function. So you may have seen in here there's this little button, and that is actually a preview button, so you'll see that little button all over the place. But there is, if I go to options, there's a preview data as well that will preview the data. So any of the builders, if you go to options, there's a preview data option that's going to show us the first 100 records that this SmartList or Excel report or whatever you're building would return, so that way I don't have to go to SmartList, see if it's the right data, come back, change it if it's not, and keep going from there. It's a quick preview in there. Okay, the icons. And this may not seem like a big feature, but it's kind of nice when you get to building them to have the new icons to help you manage what you have. We've just tried to make them look a little bit more like the tables that you're pulling in. So this is the match tables. So I have the transaction open and the history table matched together, and so you can tell it looks like there's two tables to that one. This is the standard GP table option. The GL100 is our SQL table, and if you're familiar with the older versions, we got rid of that little asterisk as well. The accounts one here is a data connection, so it's kind of made to look like an Excel spreadsheet since that's what the data connections are. These two windows, this is an extender window or extender resource on there. The second to last one there, accounts, is the SmartList option. So kind of looks like what SmartList has with the sidebar in the top. And then of course this is our SQL script. And we are working on a feature that you can actually name your SQL script, so this would show accounts or whatever I type into a name there as well. It's just right now, it just says SQL script. Okay, the last feature I want to show you is Table Finder. And this is, like I said, probably the biggest one that is going to help you out the most, I think. So there's two ways to do it. I'm just going to go back to our core GP, and we'll just use, we'll say, the account maintenance window. I know this window has the data I need on it, but I don't know what tables this is in. So what I can do on any window in GP, I can go to Tools, Table Finder, and move this over a little bit so we can see our window. You can see it pulls in the account maintenance information, and it's telling me here's all the different tables that are on that account maintenance window or linked into it in some way, shape, or form. Now if I wanted to get to, say, this budget window, that one is independent, but sometimes in this window drop-down you'll see these other windows as well. It just depends on how where they're accessed from within GP. But, so I have the window. I know I want this main account one. I'd like to have this description, we'll say. So I can come to Field and pick Account Description, and it says that's in the Account Master table. So I know right off that one is in Account Master. Now I could say, well, what about the category? You know, I want that too. Is that in the same table? Must be this one. And that's in the Account Category Master. So now I know I have two different tables I have to deal with, possibly. It's also possible that there's, you know, this is the description. It's also possible there's an Account Category ID. That maybe that's enough for me. Or you can go through any of the different fields and find out what tables they're in. Once you've figured out the table that it's in, you can see all of the information over here. It's telling me there's 519 records. I can actually build select statements by choosing different columns over here, and then I get a select statement on the table. Here's our preview button again. Once I have everything I want, and I know this is the right table, I can create a SmartList, an Excel report, or a navigation list right from here. I click Create SmartList, and I say, we'll call this Account List. Hit Save. And now I have that list in SmartList Builder. So just like that, I found the window that the data was in, figured out what table it is, and had SmartList Builder create that for me. Now, if I already have this set up, and I know I want that category now, but I can't remember what table, there's another way we can get to that table finder from within the builders, and that's if I go add a GP table. There's this looking glass next to table here. It says Find Table when you hover on it. I can pull up that same account maintenance form in here, and then I could pick that category description. And it says that's in the account category master. Okay, that's what I want, so I'll select that. It adds it in, and now it just is making me do that join and everything else I need to get in there. So I'll join that in, and now I have that table on there. So there's two different ways to get to that table finder, either from any window in GP, and to prove it's any window, I can even get to it from the SmartList Builder window. So it just goes to that Tools menu on every window in GP when you install the SmartList Builder build. So that is the new features. If you are on 2013 and you want to get those new features, you can go to the eOneSolutions.com website, go to Downloads, and you'll just pick SmartList Builder as your product. And then you'll see two different 2013 builds here. Just make sure you know which build of GP you're on. You can get that in the Help About of GP, whether you're on the R2 build or you're on anything prior to R2 being 1744 or less. We have a download here for you. Now, don't go download that and install it today. Make sure you have registration keys from us first, because it will require a different set of registration keys than if you're on the version that Microsoft was shipping. So we do have that available for you. If you're on 2010 and you want these features, we don't have them all there. But this release of 2010 that's on our website does have the table finder built into it. So at least to get that feature if you're on 2010 and you want that. That does require a new registration key as well, so make sure you get that. So I'll go back just to kind of so you can see the new feature list there again. If you have any more questions on that, let us know. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Abby to do SmartView.
Hey, Nicole, this is John. I did have a couple of questions that were typed in. So I think you addressed one of them, saying that in order to get the GP or the SmartList Builder, that you do need GP 2013 to get all the functionality, but partial functionality is available in 2010.
Yeah, so all of it is built into 2013. The table finder is built into 2010. And I probably should say the first 4 features in this list are SmartList Builder only, which kind of makes sense because it's dealing with the Smart List. SQL scripting is in SmartList Builder and Navigation List Builder. It will come into Excel Report Builder with the next major release of GP, so 2015 or whatever they call it. And then the last 3, Preview Data, Icons, and Table Finder, are available for all 3 of the builders, SmartList Builder, Navigation List Builder, and Excel Report Builder.
Okay. Then another question we got was, if someone builds a Smart List report and they pass it off to their manager, will the manager be able to drill down and access to GP? I guess they would only be able to drill down and access GP if they had a GP license.
Yeah, so because they would have to have access to SmartList, unless they had our SmartView that Abby will show you, to view the report if they're building it in SmartList. If they build an Excel Report Builder and do that drill back, the manager or whoever it is has to have a login to GP, because you actually have to be logged into GP for that drill back to work from outside of GP.
And then can any GP users access queries created in SmartList Builder, even if they don't have SmartList Builder, just run them?
You have to have SmartList Builder installed, but it is a SmartList at that point, so as long as they have security to it, they can run it. So they don't have to have access to create new SmartList in SmartList Builder, they just have to have it installed on their machine and then have security to that SmartList that's been created.
Okay, perfect. It looks like the end of the question, so I guess we can turn it over to Abby now.
Okay.
All right. Can everyone see my screen? I'm guessing yes, unless I hear otherwise.
Now we do.
Okay, great. All right, well, first off, thanks, Nicole, for sharing the new features. If you guys have questions on any of the new features, just let us know. We'd be more than happy to help. I know that on our blog, which you can access right from our website, there are articles on each specific feature as well. So Nicole's written those up. So if you have someone on your team that you might want to share that with, certainly feel free to reference the blog or, again, reach out to us. We would love to help. So let's go ahead and just dive right into SmartView. And Nicole explained a little bit in the beginning about the different products. So a lot of you out there have SmartList Builder already, and SmartList Builder allows you to create those custom smart lists, right, what she was just sharing with you. Now, SmartView, which I'm about to show you, does not replace SmartList Builder. You still want to use SmartList Builder to create those custom smart lists, but what you can do is you can use SmartView to view any of the canned lists from Microsoft, so that the basic ones you'd access from SmartList, or any that you've created utilizing SmartList Builder. Now we have two different versions of SmartView. We have one that sits inside of GP, and then as Nicole mentioned, we also have one that sits outside of GP, meaning you can access that without taking up a GP user license. So I'm going to first show you the one that's sitting inside of GP, and we'll access it from our drop-down menu here, and we'll just take a look at SmartView. So let's just go ahead and open up SmartView. We'll look at the lay of the land first off, okay? So again, this is a replacement to SmartList altogether, and you'll see why in just a moment. Now first off, we're looking at the lay of the land. We can see that we have our smart lists on the left-hand side in a tree view. So any of my favorites from smart lists that I've already created can be brought over into SmartView. Any list that's also been created utilizing SmartList Builder can be seen as well. So I'll have those lists on the left-hand side. I'll have my report right in the middle, and then on the right-hand side I have all the columns that I can add or remove as they pertain to the list that I've selected. So let's say I wanted to add in, how about our sales territory. I'm just going to drag and drop that right in. We'll do a salesperson ID, and how about a sales date as well. And maybe let's just get rid of, how about we'll get rid of that unit cost. Now I can scroll through my list here, or I can even type in the word and I can find unit cost. Or what I can do is I can just drag that right off the screen and get rid of that column, okay? Now a couple things to point out to you. First off, if I move into options, since I'm looking at my sales line items list, I want to have more space. So I'm going to get rid of the lists on the left, and I'm going to get rid of my columns on the right. Okay, so I can really have all the data that I need. If I can draw your attention toward the bottom in the middle, you can see that our columns have automatically totaled for us. So that means that unlike SmartList, I don't have to export to Excel in order to get the totals on those columns. I get that right away off the bat. Now if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that we just pulled up 1,000 sales line items in less than a second. Okay? If we wanted to bump up that number, we could pull as many of our records as we have. In my system, I have 1,039 sales line items, and actually the time went down, 0.8 seconds. We were able to bring that list up. Now if I compared that to SmartList here, and I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this, but if I did a comparison to SmartList, you can see that we've waited obviously a second, and we're just getting to a few hundred sales line items. So those of you out there that are looking at large lists and you're waiting and waiting for those lists to come up, SmartView is making that happen for you at a much quicker rate. Okay? Now let's talk about actually working with the list that we have here. So let's say I wanted to just take a look at my invoices and orders. How about? All of my column headers have a filter icon at the top right-hand corner, and I'll just select that filter and I'm going to filter on my invoices and orders because those are the two that I want to see right now, and it's going to add that filter to the bottom of the screen for me. So I'm just looking at invoices, just looking at orders, and if I hit my edit filter at the bottom right, you can see that this is the filter that was added. Now, unlike SmartList, SmartView allows you to add as many filters as you want. So you're not limited to just 4 filters. You can actually just keep going and going and going. And you can complete the filter from the left to the right, selecting your column and your criteria on that filter, whether it's is greater than, less than, is between, is like or not like, any of, none of, etc. Okay? I can also work with my filters and use an and, I could use an or, I could do a not and, not or, I can add a condition here, or I can add a group if I want to as well. Okay? So we'll just actually cancel this because I don't want to add those blank filters. And let's go back to the data and let's just take a look at how about grouping and subgrouping. So you can see I just dragged that column header to the top. So I'm grouping by my salesperson. And let's say I want to see what they've been selling. So I want to see their item numbers. Now to make this a little easier, I'm going to move to the top left to my Home tab. And in the middle I have a Groups option. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to collapse these so I can quickly drill down and take a look at just the salespeople that I want to look at for right now. So if I just wanted to look at Sandra's information, I could see how many of these items that she sold here. Okay? Now, if I collapse that all again, I want to point out one other thing here. I have a blank salesperson ID, so I'm going to filter that out and just add one other one in here. So we'll get rid of that blank. And if you look at our filter on the bottom, you can see that we've added that new filter. So we're still filtering on our invoices and orders, and then we've added in that salesperson ID. Okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is, let's say we wanted to look for maybe a dollar amount on an invoice. Let's say I'm looking for, how about $49.75. We'll go ahead and do a search. It's actually going to search across all of my columns when I'm searching within the Find panel. Now I could search for a dollar amount. I could search for, maybe a specific name of an item. I can go ahead and do that search as well. Now, instead of using the Find panel, let's say I wanted to search just on one particular column within that list, because I know, let's say maybe it's within my extended cost, so I don't want it to bring up everything that applies. I just want it to search across that one specific column. I can go ahead and bring up what it is that I'm looking for there. Okay? Now, if I took off this auto filter, and I'm actually going to get rid of my filter I just added so we can take a look again at the full information. If I move to the top to Home again, and then I stayed at the top towards the middle, I can now export this information if I wanted to. Okay, so I can export this to Excel, to CSV, or to PDF. So we'll just go ahead and export this out. Now I have to give this a name right away, and the reason being is it's actually by design. We don't want you exporting a bunch of book ones because you should have the data that you need right within SmartView, because you're getting your totals, you're doing your filtering here, you're moving things around the way that you want right here, and then export it out after you have the report that you need. So we'll go ahead and just export that out. And again, we're still in SmartView Internal, but we exported that report, and you can see I've kept my grouping, I've kept my subgrouping, and I've also exported out my column headers at the very top as well. Okay, so I'm taking a look at that view, and I get it in fractions of a second. Now, a couple other just tips for you guys real quick. If I wanted to say just look at a few of these invoices here, I could do a Control-C and Control-V, and I can just copy and paste just those specific items or just those specific invoices that I needed. So one of the things that I actually do is I use SmartView for all of my sales reporting, and I can actually just copy and paste a few of those lines right into an Outlook message. So if I needed to check in with my accounts person to say, you know, hey, was there a discount applied here or what's going on, rather than trying to export her and send her the full report, I'm just going to send her those few lines that she needs. Now moving back to SmartView Internal, a couple other things to show you, and then I want to show you SmartView External so you have a look at that as well. But we've exported at the top. If we look toward the left to, on the very top left-hand side, there's a little star with a plus sign. What you want to do is you want to add these lists as a favorite. So that way, we'll just call this BMI's list. That way, when you come back to SmartView and you want to take a look at your report, you keep your filtering and you keep your grouping and your subgrouping and everything that you've done with this list. So that way, you're not starting from scratch, okay? So rather than starting in the basic list and then rebuilding it every time, you can just keep this favorite and it's listed below the main list that you started with, okay? A couple other things to share on SmartView Internal on that side. Another thing that we've recently added is a canned age trial balance report, okay? So this is something that like I mentioned, that we just added, and what you can do is you can start with the basic report, and then on the right hand side what you can do is you can take a look at a few other columns here. Maybe you want to look at your 91 to 120 day buckets, or maybe your 61 to 90 day buckets, and you can go ahead and build out the report from the left hand side, and you can even choose on the top right hand corner the age as date, and you can go ahead and select that from the calendar drop down if you'd like, and you can go ahead and look at the details if you want to as well, okay? So you can really get into that report a little bit more. The age trial balance is just basically a canned report that we've built exclusively for SmartView. All right, one other thing to mention before we move on and just open things up for questions, I want to make sure you can see SmartView External as well. So SmartView External is accessed right from my desktop. So what that means is that I actually don't need to take up a user license, a GP user license, in order to access my SmartList. I just simply need to have security granted to me based on a GP user or a GP role. So that doesn't mean I need to be that user, it just means my security needs to match that user or role so I can see just the list that I'm allowed to see. So if I take a look, let's say, how about at a purchasing list here? Maybe we'll look at the vendors list. You can see again, I have my list on the left and I have my columns on the right. Now one of the differences is just the way that you add and remove columns. Here I can untick and tick the boxes, so if I wanted to add maybe a current balance, maybe a currency ID and a country and maybe a create date, I'm just going to tick those boxes and you can see those column headers add to the right hand side. I can still hide my lists, I can still hide my columns, I can still do my grouping and my subgrouping, so maybe I want to group by country and city here, and I can still collapse that data and add my filters. Now, and one other difference between SmartView External and SmartView Internal is that SmartView Internal, if we switch back to that, and let's just take a look at our vendors list again in SmartView Internal, and this was something that I forgot to mention to you before, is that when you're in SmartView Internal, you have access to your GoTos. So if I wanted to take a look at this vendor card, I could just double click and open up that vendor card. Or if I was in, my list of invoices, I could double click and open up those invoices. If I jump into SmartView External, I'm not going to be able to bring up one of those GP windows because I'm not logged into GP at all. Now, I personally use SmartView External every day myself, even though I have access to GP. I have a login for GP. I prefer to use SmartView External. It's very fast and it allows me to see the data without having to mess around being in GP. So we have a number of different customers who've been able to give their users access to either SmartView Internal or SmartView External and save really a lot of time. One of our customers located in Canada was getting about 5 to 8 requests per week from users on just creating basic reports, not even something that you need to do with SmartList Builder, but just adding little filters and moving columns around. 5 to 8 per week. And he put SmartView in place and gave his users access to SmartView, and those requests went from 5 to 8 per week to 3 to 5 a month. So as the IT director, he was able to save himself a ton of time. We also have someone internally who, before using SmartView themselves, was messing around in SmartList, and they've calculated out that they've been able to save themselves about 5 to 8 hours per week. So you think about the people that you have in your organization and the amount of hours they're spending trying to work on SmartList themselves in the basic SmartList, and you can give them access to SmartView and really save a lot of time and give them the data that they need right away. All right, I know I've done a lot of talking here, so feel free to ask any questions that you have.